Hey, good morning, colleagues. Happy Monday to you. This is John Herrera from MuniTemps, Municipal Staffing Solutions, with a City Speak blog and podcast for today titled, What to Do When a Key Employee Quits. What do you do? This is the 10-minute version of the video for LinkedIn because we're capped at 10 minutes. But if you want to see the full-length video on this topic, go to my YouTube channel, City Speak the podcast, and you can hear the whole discussion. So thanks for listening in today. Again, as I said, what do you do when a key employee quits? What is a key employee? Which employee in your organization do you as a manager or a supervisor have that you feel, oh my God, I don't know what I'd do without this employee? But here you are, you're faced with a situation. Your key employee, your most important employee, your irreplaceable employee just quit. No notice, no anything, just said, I'm gone. So what do? Well, the first thing I want to say to you is this could be a blessing in disguise. Really, I know you're panicking. Oh my God, how am I going to finish this report? What are we going to do in our department? Now I'm totally I'm in hot water. Maybe you feel you're going to get fired. Who knows? But don't do that. Stop just for a moment. Breathe. Get a brown paper bag and breathe into it. This employee that you thought was irreplaceable, that you couldn't live without, this key employee leaving you may be a blessing in disguise. You know, I think we all have employees in our organization who put everything they can into making themselves irreplaceable. Sometimes they'll even tell you that they feel that they were irreplaceable. Maybe they tell other employees in your department, this is how you make yourself irreplaceable. But those kind of employees, you've got to be careful. So I say warning whenever you're dealing with employees who think that they're not replaceable. I remember my very first real job working at the Bank of Coronado back in the early 80s. And I was my supervisor, the operations officer, her name was Corey Kelly. Really nice lady. She was an Irish lady with a very strong personality. I'm not saying it, she used to say it. She was a tennis player here in San Diego, but she was the operations officer. I was a bank teller. And I remember that I used to get kudos from my customers and they'd give me attaboys. And so one time, one customer made it a point to tell my operations officer, Corey Kelly, that she had a really good employee in me. And she says, yeah, I know, and whatever. So after the customer left, I went up to Corey Kelly and I said, Corey, isn't that great? I forget exactly what I said, but something to the effect that, don't I deserve a pat on the back? And she says, no. She says, this is your job. That's what you get paid for. Now you can criticize that and you can say, well, she wasn't being a good manager or whatever you want, but she was right. I was getting paid a salary that I had agreed upon to do that job and to do it at a good standard. If I do it above the standard of just meets requirements, that's on me. I wanted that, right? Of course, the bank was benefiting, the organization was benefiting, but that was my first experience with being in a job out of high school, because I've had many jobs before that, but I realized I'm not replaceable. I'm not irreplaceable, I should say. I'm replaceable. And everybody in your organization should be replaceable. Your organization is more important than any one employee. I'm not saying you're going to go around saying that to everybody, but those of you who are decision makers in your organization, you better realize that. The organization is a going concern. Go into your annual audited financial statements if you're a government agency or you're a publicly traded company. Go in there and see what a going concern is all about. If your organization is dependent on people that are key people, well, I should stop for a moment. There is usually a key person in your organization. Is typically the city manager, the chief executive, and they sell insurance policies for this. They're called key man policies. Key man policies, insurance policies for what happens if you lose a key employee, which is typically one. But more and more, what we're seeing today is that sorry about that, is that all employees are replaceable. And any employee that thinks of themselves as being not replaceable will typically not be a good team player, because they're more concerned about their own success than they are about success of the organization or the team that they're a part of. You always knew this employee that just quit, this key employee that you're all freaking out about, that she just quit, he just quit, whatever. You always knew that this employee was never a team player, and you just didn't know how to get rid of him or her. So the bottom line for this brief video, before I go into the details of the longer video on the City Speak, the podcast in the my YouTube channel, remember that there are solutions. You need to make your organization systems dependent, not people dependent. We respect all employees. That's not what I'm saying. You always have to respect employees and create a work environment that's very positive and building, but you do not make your organization dependent on any one individual. We are a team. We are made up of we're a going concern. That's if your organization was too dependent on one employee, you better get an insurance policy for that. And we'll talk about that in a future video. But remember, your organization, it's a going concern. Your organization is more important than any one employee. It is. And those who are in positions of leadership, whether it's the board of directors or the governing body, the city council, needs to remember that you need to structure your organization systems dependent, not people dependent, because employees come and go, especially those who feel they're not replaceable. HR is your best friend, and you need to know how to use their expertise and implement the best practices that human resources recommends to you. But remember, you're not human resources. You're the department director. You're the city manager. You're the chief executive. You only use HR to provide resources to you. Again, HR is your best friend. Utilize that. So with this key employee gone now, instead of freaking out, look to rebuild a real team. I mean, that's what you should have done from the beginning, but you know you made a mistake, so you get a clean slate as far as this one employee is concerned. So you can go back and now focus on building a team with employees that focus on being a part of a successful team and helping the organization to accomplish its vision. Now, of course, there's different generations, right? I told you I was once a 18-year-old working for Corey Kelly at the Bank of Coronado, and she set me straight right away. I don't care what your mama told you. I don't care how much your mama puts you up here on a pedestal and worships you, or your mom and dad worships you. You're getting paid to do a job, now do it. That's all. Now, obviously, there were other benefits there as well, but we'll talk another time about good management and motivation. Companies like Google and Zappos and other companies figure out how to make good work environments to keep employees engaged. But yes, there are generational differences, but managers, good managers, they use good old American ingenuity to figure out a better way to make this team work, to make employees understand you're not irreplaceable. I had one city manager that always told me when I was a finance director of the city of San Jacinto, I have 3 to 5 other finance directors waiting for your job. So it was, well, fine, whatever. But he did make me think I had to earn my job. Every day you go out there, just like football players, every day they go out on the field, they do the best job that they can. So whenever you lose your key employee, remember, it's an opportunity, not a threat. Whenever you lose an employee that thinks they're irreplaceable, consider it a blessing and move forward. All for now, this is John Herrera with Munitemps, Municipal Staffing Solutions, and today's City Speak podcast. Make the best of it when you lose a key employee. See you at the next longer term version. So please stick around, okay? Have a great day. Go do good work. Bye-bye. Hang around. Hey, for those of you that stuck around for listening in a little longer on this topic of what do you do when a key employee quits? Do you have a key employee that has recently quit? Maybe today, some of you out there have a key employee that quit. Okay? I know what it feels like, trust me. I have a company at Muni Temps, and I also serve city organizations. So we've got teams, man. We got to make sure that we have employees. Obviously, employees are very important. Human resources is our most valuable asset. We've always said that for 50 or 60 years. We've always said that. Human resources, people are our most valuable asset. But when people start acting capricious, they start acting like they think that the organization owes them something beyond the paycheck, that is, you can have problems. And you have to watch for the warning signals for employees. You hear them when they're talking. They'll talk to coworkers and they'll say, you want to make yourself irreplaceable? Do this or do that. And typically it's not do this is not something good for your organization. They'll, instead of focusing in on writing procedures about how they do their job, they won't write procedures. They don't like policies and procedures or specific procedures on how they do their job because they're afraid that somebody else will come in and they can do their job. What they don't realize is that our employees are our most important asset. If I have an employee and she does he or she performs a certain job, a certain technical job, I'm not gonna take their procedures and say, bye, see, I'm gonna get somebody else. No way. We're gonna keep the same employee. Nobody likes turnover. If you as an employer are listening to this and you're like, no, I know that if I write, you're so insecure that you'll say something like, I know that if I write procedures, detailed procedures, screenshots of how I do everything in my job, they're going to see that what I do is not that important and they can replace me. That's not going to happen. What those procedures are meant for is if you're ever out sick, if you're ever on vacation, or maybe you just decide you leave, you're going to go work at some other organization. The organization has a way to have somebody else step in, and there's succession planning. Somebody can hit the ground running. You owe that to your organization. You're getting paid to do that. And again, they're not going to fire you. And managers, that's why you need to get these procedures out of these employees. Employees that you ask for a checklist of everything they do, or you ask them for a written procedure on how they perform various tasks, if they push back a little bit, that's an employee that's trying to make themselves irreplaceable. And they're so insecure that they don't understand that you need them. You want them working for your organization forever. You don't ever want to fire these employees, but you just want them to make sure that they provide business continuity because your organization is a going concern. So as I talked about Corey Kelly, it was, I always thought she was like, man, she doesn't really appreciate me. I mean, I have all these customers that say such good things about me, and she doesn't really appreciate me. Oh, I'm sorry about this. She doesn't appreciate me. She just said that that's my job. But you know what? I thought about it, and I said, yeah, she is right. That is my job. I want to have a pat on the back all the time. Managers, you all know that we do have to be patting employees on the back when they do a good job. Not just pat them on the back. It's 10:15, time to pat Joey on the back. Oh, it's 10:45, time to pat Susie on the back. Hey, doing a good job. No. Of course, we need to look for opportunities to pat employees on the back, but for real successes, for real accomplishments. Not just because, it's time, I haven't patted this employee or that employee in the back. No. You have to make sure that you're rewarding good behavior with attaboys and good pat on the back. Or Pauline Mays, she was the executive vice president from Wells Fargo Bank back in the mid-'80s when I used to work there, and she used to have a little memo that said, "Toot your own horn." All right, although it wasn't us tooting our horn, it was somebody else tooting a horn for another employee. So yeah, you can look like Wells Fargo used to have in the '80s, come up with a way that you can recognize employees for good work done. But that doesn't mean they're not replaceable. And you never want to put your organization where it just relies on one organization. Otherwise, go get a key man policy to ensure what happens when that irreplaceable key employee leaves. And as I said, we as managers, as supervisors, we make mistakes. Sometimes it's because we came up through the ranks. Maybe we were an employee, right? As a part of all the other employees. And when you get promoted, you didn't know you were going to get promoted. That's why you were playing with the boys and the girls or whatever. And then when you finally get made a supervisor and you have some old skeletons, in the closet and in the organization, you're afraid that that employee is always going to be using that against you. Well, guess what? No, You know what? You do a come to Jesus, okay? If you ever get promoted, you make sure you bring that employee, you bring the supervisor, and let the organization know, I had done this. I stole paper clips with this employer. Yeah, we took off and we used the company or the organization's vehicle to make a trip up north or whatever it is. There's things that sometimes employees do because, hey, we're just with each other as employees and the boss doesn't know, right? Well, you got to come clean. You can never let any employee have some threat over you, okay? You got to and if you made a mistake, you come clean. You say, I'm sorry. I was an employee and I wasn't really thinking that someday I'd be a leader and this would come out. So you just, in my opinion, I think you can come clean. But I now want to talk about the employee. I am 100% sincere. Without employees, we don't have an organization. I agree with you. But never get yourself into that situation where that employee is irreplaceable. That you tell them, oh my God, I don't know what I'd do without you. I can't do this job without you. I can't run this company. I can't lead this organization without you. Don't ever do that. That's the biggest mistake you can make. And from experience, because it's happened to me in the past, you will regret it. You make somebody's head so big that they start believing it. And you're just so thankful, right? Thank you for doing all this good job. Oh my God, you saved my job, I do appreciate when a city manager will tell me, now I can sleep better knowing that you're here. And I want to say to this city manager, no. You have to hold me accountable as well. Because the heart is treacherous. Who can know it? Every one of us can be overly corrupted by being told that we're so great. Don't ever tell anybody, you're so great. Then they start believing it and they might start acting naughty and not really appreciating that the organization is the most important thing that they should be focusing in on. I work in city government, and in a city government, like in the city of San Diego, the city of Los Angeles, the city of Calexico, the city of whatever, it's large or small, although 99% of cities are all small. But a city government is both an organization and a community. That organization ensures the efficient delivery of services to the residents and the businesses and other stakeholders of the community. The organization has to be kept going no matter what. Even if all the employees were to quit, the community would come together through its elected officials, the city council, board of directors, whatever governing body. They come together and they hire their one true employee, which is the city manager. Who is the city manager? And that city manager then goes about hiring the entire team. In the meantime, they contract out for services. There's I think there's an independent cities organization. There's a contract cities organizations. And you learn that when your employees start thinking that they are irreplaceable, then you have to contract out. Now you might say to me, well, in local government and also other levels of government, many employees have what's called property interest. Property interest, that means their job is their property and you can't just take it away. I agree with that. I love the fact that we have property interest, Skelly rights, hearings, and so forth. You can't just fire an employee for no reason. But man, who the heck would want to fire an employee for no reason? You'd have to be stupid to be firing an employee that's working and doing their job, at least that meets minimum standards. This is not what I'm talking about here. I totally understand that we value our employees. No organization wants to fire an employee. Even when they're a jerk, even when their personality is not the most desirable, you don't fire those employees. I'll tell you from experience. I worked in city government for 32 years, and I'm not somebody that's the most well-liked because I speak the truth. A lot of times people don't want to hear the truth, and maybe sometimes it's a little bit too honest. But I've always done it, and I've never got fired. My city manager, my directors, whoever I reported to in city government for 32 years, listen to me. They never fired me. As a matter of fact, when I went from one city to another, I had one city manager tell me, he says, I talked to your boss, a city manager at another city, and he said, you're a little bit, what word did he use? I forget exactly how he said it, but basically there were words to the effect that I don't make his job easy. And that's right. I don't make the city manager's job easy or any department director. I'm the chief financial officer. I'm the finance director. And if you think you can have a chief financial officer or a finance director in a city organization in your back pocket, you're destroying your organization. You never want to have that. You talk about fraud. You talk about ethics. I mean, anything. A chief financial officer needs to be able to be independent in a lot of decisions. Obviously, I, as a chief financial officer, recognize that the city manager is the decision maker. He or she is my boss. But I'm going to let you know how I feel about something. I'm going to want to make sure that you understand that some of your decisions, you may not be taking everything into consideration. And so I'm going to tell you about it. I won't do it with disrespect. I won't do it in front of other people. I'm talking in closed session. Just like you as a city manager or a chief executive, when you go into a closed session with a governing body, board of directors, whatever, when you're in closed session, you can actually take off your tie for a few minutes and say, hey, let's talk turkey here. Let's get real, right? I'm not going to do it in public with other people. Of course not, because the legitimacy of the organization is compromised whenever a city manager or a chief executive is spoken down to with disrespect by lower level employees. And may that never happen. That's insubordination, among other issues. City manager must be respected. The chief executive must be respected always. And if he or she is not respected, you're gone, man. I mean, you don't belong there. You don't argue like that. Definitely not in public. And I never argue with a city manager or my superior. But I do say, I need you to hear me out on this. I'm going to give you an I-bar, identify the issue, give you a background, identify alternatives, and give you my recommendation. You want to go in a different direction, you want to take a different alternative, that's fine, that's your decision. But I'm going to give you my recommendation. Do I consider myself irreplaceable? No way. I'm an at-will employee. Now, there are some cities where you have, you're part of a bargaining group. There was one city that I worked at, pretty big size city too, and they had department directors had their own little protection there. I don't believe in that. I'm sorry, I don't believe in that. That creates the wrong dynamic for the organization. Every one of us realizes we are totally replaceable, but we will never be replaced if we're doing our job. And I'll talk in another video about that, how to communicate. You have to communicate. You have to do a little bit of public relations with your supervisor, your superiors, so that they know. If you don't communicate with people about what is going on in your department or what you're doing, then you could end up getting fired for the wrong reason. But you have a responsibility as an employee to communicate and talk about what you're working on. And as a manager, you have a responsibility to ensure that you provide training and opportunities for employees. But we're talking here about an important employee, a key employee, an employee that you always thought was irreplaceable. What now? What do? You celebrate. I'm serious. Yeah, it's going to be tough for a little while. You're going to have to reorganize, move things around or whatever, but you're going to be okay because your organization is the most important goal to be preserved. People are not a going concern. Organizations are going concern. People, we are part of the team that makes our organizations a going concern. And one bad employee can destroy your entire organization. I've said that before in other videos. But again, for those employees that are listening, you are the most important asset. Believe me. Well, then why are you saying that we shouldn't think ourselves as irreplaceable? Well, because it's wrong. It's wrong for you to think of yourself as irreplaceable. You are replaceable, but nobody's ever going to replace you. But if you think of yourself as irreplaceable, there's going to be problems in the organization because you're more focused on yourself than you are on the team and the organization. So, as I said, watch for those things. If you have employees right now that you see that they're trying to make themselves irreplaceable, that's not a good thing. It's a good thing in their mind, in that employee's mind, but it's a bad thing for the team and for the organization because those employees that think of themselves as irreplaceable usually are going to be the employees that are not team players. If I'm wrong, please comment on my blog. Let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Respect the employees. Always, man. Always respect the employees. They are the most important asset. We realize that. But they always have to know that they're replaceable if they don't do their job. I wanted to go back to the point about systems and making your organizations systems dependent, not people dependent. Organizations exist not with systems, but with people. But it's a very specific nuance that you need to hear me out on this, okay? People dependent organizations. What happens to a people dependent organization? When that employee leaves that organization and the organization was dependent on them, that whole organization can fall apart. And oftentimes it does happen where organizations fall apart. If they lose their finance director, oh my God. Or if they lose their city manager, oh my God. Or they lose their the secretary, oh my God, I only succeeded because of my secretary. Whatever it is, that's wrong. You cannot make your organization or your department dependent on one person staying with your organization. And that goes for me and for you and for all of us. I'm not just talking about certain levels of employees, at all levels of the organization. So how do you make your organization systems dependent? By policies and procedures, by having good documentation, good evaluations of the employees, and making sure that you always have that communication open, and understanding that that system that you have of employee evaluation, feedback, communication, training, and then using human resources as your best friend, and having policies and procedures for everything from how you prepare a staff report, to how do you prepare a budget, to how do you prepare a journal entry, to how do you prepare a contract, whatever it is. You have to be systems dependent. Everything is a system dependent. And I'm not talking about robots taking over the world. That's another matter. And I have nothing to do with that, and neither do you. What's going to happen there is going to happen. Just like the robot called the automated teller machine, the ATM, replaced me. I had nothing to do with that. It was driven by the consumer. They didn't want to pay high costs of banking services. Do you know where banking services, what you'd be paying for having a checking account? Right now it costs you $0 to have a checking account, as long as you put your direct deposit. But it used to cost money to have a checking account. Those costs would go up without automation, technology, computer. The ATM is a robot, and it works all the time. I, as a teller back in the early 80s, I needed sick time. I needed breaks. I needed vacations and so on and so forth. But anyways, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about robotics and artificial intelligence and all this. I'm just talking about systems, soft systems, hard systems that you can put in your organization to make your organization systems dependent, not people dependent, but always providing the highest level of respect, training, investing in employees so that they stay. Because the employee, just like they might want to make themselves irreplaceable, by the same token, they may not want to stay. I mean, what's the word that we use to say that involuntary servitude ended a long time ago. So all for now, John Herrera, MuniTemps, Municipal Staffing Solutions, and the City Speak podcast. What to do when an employee quits? Celebrate. Wish them well. Have a party for them even. But this is a blessing. It could very well be a blessing in disguise lets you restart with a clean slate and rebuild your teams. All for now, John Herrera. Thanks for listening in. I appreciate you being with me. Please comment as I want to know more about what you think. Bye-bye.